This is the Living in Clarity podcast. I'm Coach Ratner. This is Lori Palatnik. And today we're going to talk about the 3 times that you're allowed to lie. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Why are you allowed to lie, Lori? What is this about?
Okay, according to Jewish tradition, you're never allowed to lie.
Okay.
Except under 3 conditions. You ever see the movie Liar, Liar with
Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey?
Yes. What was the...
Remember the premise of it? He was always lying. He's a lawyer.
Yes.
He's always lying to his kid, like, I'm going to be there, whatever. And then, he was late to his birthday party or something, and then he lied about why and everything. So then something happens to him. Like the kid makes a wish. I don't remember. I think it's like this. The kid makes a wish that he never lies. And then he literally cannot lie. Like every time he tries to lie, like he can't. Like and so he's got this thing that happens that he can't lie. So he always tells the truth. Is that good?
No, it's not always good to tell the truth.
In the movie, he messes up a lot
Like-
because somebody goes oh, like, how do you like my new haircut? Like, you look like a witch. Okay?
Yes.
And he's like, he can't lie. But there are
No filter. He has no filter.
There's no filter.
Yeah. You know, it's
But
fun that
there-
older people, they lose their filter. You know, like old
Oh
men.
my
Like,
gosh. Are we
I
talking
know.
about my mother?
They just say what comes out of it. They don't think about it. They say whatever comes in their mind, you know?
You know what's funny? I saw Seinfeld did a thing on Netflix, a comedy thing, and he said, like, you know what's the greatest thing about being 60? Somebody says to you, "Hey, we should get together." No. When you get older, you just like, yeah, you have less filter, less tolerance, and less like time for just like nonsense.
Have you heard Jim Carrey recently talk? Jim Carrey is like very spiritual. He says, you know what? I have enough. I'm done.
Wow.
I don't know if it's true. I saw him on social media.
A lot.
He's
been through a lot.
and he's
You know,
like,
you're Canadian.
yeah, well, Chris, all you guys are great. I can tell you, I meet a lot of people from Toronto.
They're the nicest people.
They are the nicest people. Like when I meet someone, I can tell, like, you're from Toronto, aren't you? Like, yeah, how do you know? I'm like, I could just tell. Like, they're so
Yeah.
nice.
I always say I have a mixed marriage because I'm Canadian, my husband's American. So we met in Israel, and my husband says the only thing he knew about Canada before he met me was that the hockey teams and
Yes,
the
yeah.
sports teams, and that the nicest people he knew at the college he was going to were Canadian.
Yeah, the nicest people. You know, I went with your husband to Toronto one time to do a little trip I think we went for a day. I can't believe what a big city Toronto is. It's like,
People think it's a hick town.
you think of Toronto, oh, some
You think
small
it's-
Canadian city.
Yeah, yeah.
It is. Looks like it was like New York.
It's a major city. You know, a lot of films are filmed. A lot of major films use Toronto because the American dollar goes farther there.
Yeah.
And the government helps in subsidy, and they film things, but they set it up like it's New York. Like you
Oh, it
think
looked like
it's
New York.
but it's a lot cleaner,
Yeah.
a lot safer.
Yeah.
And people are a lot nicer.
Remember we were flying over it to go to the airport. I'm like, am I in New York? It's like, you kept seeing the city. It's like, it didn't end. Anyway, so the 3 times you're allowed to lie. So
Okay, so you're never allowed to lie.
never allowed to lie.
Under 3 conditions.
Okay.
According to Jewish tradition.
So there are, just like before you say, generally you should never lie, but there are exceptions. These are the exceptions.
Okay, but we have to be very, very careful with these exceptions.
Okay.
Very careful.
Let's
It's
go.
very easy to rationalize a lie.
Yeah.
And as my co-author of my book on gossip, Bob Berg, says, rational lies are rational lies.
I love that. Anyway,
So don't rationalize your life away. All right. So the 3 times you're allowed to lie. The first, under these 3 conditions. Number 1, for shalom, for peace. For peace between people. That people's feelings are even more important than truth. But again, you have to be very careful with this. So imagine you redecorated your house.
yes. Which I like.
You like
Which I do. I have
Which-
decorated many things, yes.
Daniel has style. So imagine you've done in Israel, it's called shipputzim, renovation. You're decorated, okay, and I know that you're working on, months go by because it takes longer than you think, and you invite us over.
Of course.
Like, come over, it's done. I want you to see. Okay, I walk in to the foyer, or as Americans say, foyer. Okay, so Canadians say foyer because it is a French word that you butcher. I'm sorry. It's like so painful for me. It's like nails on a chalkboard when you guys say foyer. All right. So, so I walk into your foyer and it's it's purple and orange. It's early hojos. Okay. Like, I'm nauseous just being there. And you're like, what do you think? Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. What do you think? Tell me the truth. So there's really two schools of thought, what people often say. What do people often say? Imagine it was the other way around. I go, Daniel, tell me the truth. What do you think?
I like it. It's definitely your style. It's definitely you.
Okay. So you said, I like it, but you don't like it.
No, I don't like it. I like it.
But what did you say?
I said it's your style. They said that you would something.
This,
Not my style.
Boy, this is really you.
Yeah. I know that now means you don't like it. When someone says, oh, this is really you, that means they don't like something.
Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like, I remember coming down after getting dressed in the morning, and my teenage daughter said very diplomatically, Ima, your top is making a statement and your bottom is making a statement, but they're two different statements. Okay. Which was very sweet. So something, it's like, it was you. It's you. Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. Wow means nothing.
So, but my husband I remember he asked his rabbi, he goes, like he was a single guy and he's in Israel and he's going to people's homes for Shabbat for meals. And he says, like, like they have babies and they're like, what do you think? What do you think? He's like, what am I supposed to say? He's like, and so his rabbi said, you should say, wow, what a baby.
Yeah. Wow. What a baby. It means absolutely nothing when you say, I would go, wow, 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 wow.
Okay. But then what else can you say? Because you said at the beginning, like, I like it.
Yeah, I like
it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, what I would do if I ran to someone's house and looked like Howard Johnson's, so what I would do is I would find something they did like. And I would say, I love the how that sink blends into the countertop. That's my favorite kind of sink. I would make it something specific.
You would find something specific, that's true and built on.
And by the way, we like to talk about children marriages a lot. When my kids used to come home with artwork from school, and they go, Ema, look at my art. And it's like some little, 4-year-old drawing of something. I wouldn't say, oh, it's so beautiful. I would make a point to say, I love it. But I really love? I love the fact that the wings on that bird look like it's really flying. I go, that bird looks real.
Excellent.
I go, and I'd make a specific point about the picture.
Not just like, oh, that's nice.
Oh, that's nice, honey. No, I'd make, and they remember that I've made something specific. So I would say in this kitchen.
You're an excellent parent.
Thank you so much.
Really?
Yeah. You asked me to write something about parenting for Momentum. Remember that? I wrote a 10,000 thing on parenting. Anyway, that's what I would do. And I make something specific. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, there's things I'm not going to do. My style is not the same as your style. Yeah, we all have different styles. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means something I wouldn't choose. And I personally don't like it. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It's funny today. There's a store called Zara at Mamilla Mall, right? And I go there, and if you should look at what they're putting on their posters or their pictures of models, they have a striped shirt like this and polka dot pants.
Yeah.
And now my kids, because I have teenage kids, and it's like some of my girls will wear like 4 outfits on Shabbos. It's crazy. Like, what are you doing? And
it's a girl thing.
Yeah. And my son's also into fashion also. And my son will say,
he's stylish.
He says, oh, that doesn't match. I go, Liam, there's anything goes nowadays. Yeah. There's doesn't match.
Okay, but what if it is not your style? And you say, what do you think? What do you think? Okay, so what you said, what we brought out in this scenario are the two schools of thought that in Jewish tradition there was the school of Hillel and the school of Shammai.
Yes.
It was two different schools of thought. It's like the difference between what they would say, I don't know, at this university versus that university, or this methodology in psychology.
Yes.
Like I follow like Freud, I follow, Jung, like whatever it is. Okay. Like everybody is different. So the two schools of thought, Hillel and Shammai. So this is the scenario in the Talmud that is discussed. Imagine you have a friend who's getting married and you travel to the wedding and you get there and you see your friend and he's like, thank you for coming to my wedding. Thank you. Thank you. Do you see my bride? See my bride? See my bride? And you're like, no, I haven't seen your bride yet. Oh, she's in the next room. She's with all they're taking pictures.
Yeah.
Whatever. And so you peek in and you meet and you see his bride for the first time. And she has a good personality. Okay. Like you're a little bit taken aback by anybody's stretch of imagination. She's not an attractive girl. And your friend's like kind of like a good guy.
She looks like Miss Piggy.
She looks like Miss Piggy. She's not she has a good personality.
Yeah.
So now you come out, you're a little bit taken aback, and he goes, oh, do you see my bride? You see my bride? Isn't she beautiful? Tell me the truth. Isn't she beautiful? So there's two schools of thought in Jewish tradition of what you should say at this point. The school of Shammai says you pick out something, like you were saying
Yeah.
before, that is true, and you kind of built on that.
Yeah.
She looks so strong. You're never going to have to haul water from the river. Okay. Okay. You lucky guy. Okay. Okay. The school of Hillel says you say she's beautiful. She's stunning. You lucky guy, you. And we rule by the house of
Hillel.
Hillel.
Yes.
Why?
Because Hillel would always state his Shammai's arguments first. He'd understand them with clarity, make their point, just like a good defense attorney will make the case of the opposing argument first. So the jury knows he knows what he's talking about, and then he'd state his case, and he'd have arguments against Shammai's case.
So one of the reasons why we almost always rule by Hillel is because of exactly what you're saying, that he really heard, which is what we need to learn in discourse today. In a world of tremendous conflict, he really listened to the other side, even if he disagreed, and he could state it, which is true. But why do we rule by the house of Hillel in this point? And why are we allowed to lie for peace? Because when people ask, Daniel, when people are asking for your opinion, most of the time, they're not asking for your opinion.
They're not.
Wanted your opinion about how attractive his bride is, when would he have asked you?
Before he married her.
Exactly. Before they got engaged.
Yes.
When I came to your house, if you really wanted my opinion about the decor of your house, when would you have asked me?
Before I picked out my designer and picked out the colors of those tiles.
How do you like my haircut? What
Yeah.
do you think? What do you think? When I'm going to glue it back if you don't like it? When people are asking for your opinion, most of the time, they're not asking for your opinion. What are they asking for?
Affirmation.
Affirmation, approval.
Yes.
Give it to them.
Yes.
But the next time they're going to decorate, and the next time they're going to go to get their haircut, you might want to suggest your decorator or your hairstylist. But once it's a done deal, they're not asking for your opinion. They're asking for approval.
Yes.
Give it to them.
So this idea of peace, of that we're allowed to lie for peace, is really the most important, I believe, in a marriage. Because that is when really, I mean, also in your family too, but when peace is most important.
When you first got married, Daniel,
Yes.
and your wife made you a meal,
Yes.
was she a good cook?
She's okay. She's good.
But what did you say after she gave
Thank you so much for making me dinner. Yeah.
Well, what did you think? Did you like it?
Yeah. I liked it.
Then
I took over.
Feeling the love, Daniel.
And then I took over the kitchen.
And then you took over the kitchen.
And I took over the kitchen.
And what did she was happy.
To tell you the truth, I'm a little nuts. I just like to do everything. I like to cook dinner. I like to cook for my kids. I love to cook for my wife. I make my wife a bowl of fruit every morning. After we're done here filming, I'm gonna go home and make my wife a salad.
Oh my gosh.
Can you
hang out with my husband more?
I like to listen. Like
my husband brings me coffee in bed every morning.
That's amazing.
Almost every morning he brings me coffee.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love to do it. Gives me pleasure. We talked about love languages in our last podcast. Yeah. I love doing things that make people happy. So when I coach people, I want them to be happy. I want to help them out. I do classes on self-esteem. In fact, your husband didn't hear that one. I say my goal in this class is to make sure that when you leave here, you're happier.
Okay, but should you lie to make somebody happy?
I'm not.
Yes. Because people's feelings are more important than truth.
Yes.
People's feelings. Your kid comes home, you're saying like with a drawing that's all scribble scrabble.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not going to say like, well, what a mess. Scribbles will come back to me in 5 years, like when you can draw like a circle. Okay, no, you said you pick something out. That's right. Yeah. You say like you're such an artist. Look at all that lively thing. But if something you don't even like it, like my husband has a rule. He says to guys, if your wife asks you, "Do I look fat in this?" The answer is always
a no.
No. Always. Even if she looks fat in this. She has a best girlfriend and who can tell her like, that's not so that's you look a little hippie in this, or that's not your style, or maybe that shouldn't be she doesn't want to hear it from her husband. She doesn't want to hear it. Even if she's asking you, she really doesn't want to hear, "I look fat in this." My husband's a rabbi, so he wears like the kippah, the
yeah.
Okay, and so he jokes with when my daughters were teenagers, "Do I look fat in this kippah?" That's not what you want to hear from your husband. So there are times to say, even if she does look like a little bit the answer is always no. Because even if you say, yes, like you don't, she's now, what is she thinking?
She's thinking that my husband thinks I'm fat.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
husband thinks I'm fat.
Yeah.
Not in this, just fat.
Fat. Right. So, what I like to do is I like to think of I have a book coming out in hopefully late 2023 called Infinite Marriage: The Four Phases to a Loving Relationship. And what I like to do, I like to put the marriage on a pedestal. And it's all about analogies. And I think the marriage on the pedestal and have a fence around it. And when I say something to my wife, I think to myself, is this going to tear down that fence or going to build up the fence and protect the marriage? And so sometimes so thank God I don't have to lie to my wife very often at all, really. Um, but if it happens, I'm willing to lie in order to protect my marriage.
When was the last time you lied to your wife?
I cannot remember last time I lied to my wife. I don't.
So even though we're saying that you're allowed to lie for peace, you should think once, twice, and 3 times before you bring falsehood into a marriage,
Yes.
even if it's for a positive reason.
Because it comes back to haunt you. It always comes back. Have you noticed, like, lying always comes back? Like, anyone who does something wrong, anyone who's doing fraudulent work.
It's hard to remember your lies also.
It is.
Again, this is to be, okay, let me give you an example. So years ago, we were living in Toronto, and I went in, my husband's the rabbi, we have a congregation, and the high holidays are coming.
Yeah.
Okay, the Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, whatever, a lot of holidays, and a lot of people are going to be coming. So I went, and it's a thing that it says in the Talmud that a husband should buy his wife new clothing and jewelry before every holiday. Okay, anybody want to sign up or convert to Judaism? Okay. So I went out to buy a new outfit. And I went into a store that if you have to ask how much this is, you shouldn't be in the store.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you understand?
Yeah. They have.
But it happened to be a store. I have a certain style. I like something like not like just very cookie cutter or like rabbi's wife look. It's like a little bit funkier. Okay, the style. And I wanted to go in, and because I'm an observant Jew, I also have certain restrictions in terms of modesty. Okay, so here I have that restriction, those boundaries. I have a certain style, and I have a certain budget. It's not so easy to shop.
Yeah.
And I'm not a good shopper. I'm not a good shopper. Why? I have buyer's remorse as soon as I buy anything. I have stood in line and I go at the cash, and as soon as I get to the cash register, like I'm like, no, after all this time, or I buy it and I completely regret it and I shouldn't have paid. I'm not a good shopper. I'm not a good consumer. So I went into the store because I saw on the outside, like, oh, that's my kind of style. And I go in and it's kind of like dim, whatever, like the lighting I remember, but it's like funky clothes. And I was like, and you couldn't see the price tags. Again, I realized, okay, I'm in the wrong store. If the price isn't so clear, that means that you shouldn't be in the store. But of course, the saleswoman comes over and she's like suggesting, and before I know it, okay, she's good. I'm trying on clothes. I'm trying on this, and she's adding this and this, and they also were into accessories. Okay, jewelry, even the shoes. Okay?
I love when I get a salesperson like that, though. I used to.
Okay, but so I go in. So here I am, the shoes, the store. Before I know it, I've got the earrings, everything, and I look amazing. Okay, like I look amazing, and I love this outfit. It's so me. So then I go and she's like,
Oh, no.
and when she tells me what it all adds up to, I gasped.
Yeah.
So she says to me, okay, do you have more than one credit card? I go, yes. And do you have like a checking account? Yes. Do you have some cash? Yes. She goes, okay, what if we break it up? Some on this credit card, some on this credit card. Because I'm thinking my husband's going to go, okay, you're still paying for it. But
Yeah.
listen to how a woman, and I said to her, does everybody do this? She said, everybody. Because what are people afraid of? Your husband's going to get the number.
Right.
He's going to see it and he's going to flip out. But if you break it up, a little bit was cash, a little bit is on the check, a little bit this before, he's not even like putting it together.
Yes.
That it's from the same thing. It happens to be that my husband, bless him, never asks me, how much did that cost? Whether it's from the grocery store or it's an outfit. He'll say, oh, is that new? He never says, and I have friends whose husband asks them what they paid for peanut butter. How much did that cost? Like, it literally makes them crazy. My husband knows that I know we're on a budget. My husband's a rabbi. It's not like he's going to score a big
deal
breast circumcision, okay, and we're cashing out, okay? We kind of sink and swim.
Right.
financially. And, whatever, it always works out in the end. So my husband knows that I'm not a spendthrift. I'm not a big shopper. And if I buy something, it means that I needed it. And he wants me to buy something even if I don't need it because he wants to give me pleasure. He wants it really. So he never asks me. So why am I breaking it all up? So because I really, but if he saw like that number,
Right.
like it would take him aback also. So what if my husband asked me, what did this cost? Am I allowed to lie?
I would think, yeah, because it might upset him.
So the answer is no. And I'll tell you why. The only time you're allowed to lie for this caveat for peace is if the only thing you get back is peace. The only reason you're doing it is for peace. I came over to your house, right? The foyer, whatever. Like I'm I'm not getting anything out of it except making you happy.
Yes.
What am I getting out of it if I lie for the
Oh, you got to. I'll say it. I'll say it.
it's okay?
You can only
You can
lie
only lie
if you're getting
if you get peace.
and nothing else out of it.
Exactly.
So if
You're only lying to preserve their feelings, to make them happy, to build them, to create a positive relationship. I'm not getting anything else out of it. If you're getting an outfit, you're getting a car, you're getting this like you're unless it's a very unusual situation and you better ask an expert to guide you on it, you can't.
wow, that's pretty specific. So it's like if I go out and spend a lot of money on, a meal and we don't have a lot of money and I tell my wife, I break it up into credit cards and things like that, that I benefit. So you can't benefit from the fact
If
you
she
lie.
called you on it, said, "You went to that restaurant?"
Right. So I'm
Like
benefit.
where like a shot of scotch and you went out, you got drinking with the guys, and she knows that shot is like a lot of money. Like, well, how much did you spend? And then you know that if you say how much you spent, she's going to be upset. So can you reduce it?
No.
And for peace, no, because you didn't just get
So you can, so this is very
peace.
specific.
You got
So
a few.
lying for peace in the home is only for something that makes peace and doesn't give you any benefit.
And it's not just peace in the home, it's peace between people
Yeah.
anytime in the workplace.
Right.
It's got to be that the only reason you're doing it and the only thing you're getting out of it is shalom, is peace.
Right. Okay. That's pretty good, Lori. Let's get to number 2. What is number 2 on the 3 times you're allowed to lie?
So you're allowed to lie to minimize your accomplishments
Okay.
for humility. I heard you ran that fundraiser, that school fundraiser all by yourself. You're like, oh God, I was just one of a whole committee. And even though all those people were listed on the committee, you ran that fundraiser all by yourself.
Yes.
You know what you did. God knows what you did. Nobody else has to know what you did.
Okay.
There are times to put your name out there and to people should know what you did if it inspires other people to do good
Of
things.
course. Yeah.
I'll give you an example. So, well, we could talk about this another time, but a few years ago, I was given the unbelievable opportunity to donate my kidney to a woman I had never met before. And it was the greatest experience of my life. And we could talk about it another time. After it happened, somebody said to me, "You shouldn't speak about it. You shouldn't speak about it. It's like, there's something about you do, and there is a very strong idea that you did a good deed, and you shouldn't be showy about your deeds. You should be low key. And there is a very strong idea about
I
that."
understand, but man, I think there has been lots of donations because of your
Yeah.
donation.
So I was told, I asked somebody who was wiser than this person who had said, like, don't talk about it. And this person who I believe is wiser said to me, not only are you allowed to, you must.
It's
Because
saving
if
lives.
you inspire somebody else to do the same thing, then you must. You're saving lives. And I have spoken about this. I have a talk, The Gift of Life. And
Future podcast.
yeah, it is really, well, we could do a podcast. It was, and I'm telling you, it was the greatest experience of my life. And the only regret I have, and the only regret any kidney donor I know has had, is that you can't do it again. Because if you could, you would. You have 2 kidneys. You can live a perfectly normal, healthy life with 1 kidney. I can't give my
It's
other
not a
kidney away.
regret for doing it. Is that a regret for doing it?
No, it's not the regret for doing it. It's the only regret I have now. It's the only negative thing about what I did. I
No, but
wish you would do it again.
but you knew going into it you could only give one away.
Right, but you didn't know it was going to be the greatest experience of your life. You think
Right.
like, okay, I'm doing it. And I say there's a whole story about how it all happened, but afterwards, and you feel good that you did it, but you wish you could do it again.
Yeah.
And you can't.
Sure.
You can't.
You saved
So I
people's
guess
life.
you're right. It's not a regret
It's not a
of
regret.
what you did,
No.
but it's like the only negative thing I have from it. People go,
That's
it's
not
like,
negative.
it is.
No, it's not.
Daniel, the purity and the unbelievable experience of it, and that world you were in of altruism and people giving kidneys to each other and saving lives. It's hard to step out of that.
It's the desire
It's
to want
hard.
it. It's the
It's hard
desire.
for me to see people eating garbage and smoking.
I know.
And
It's very difficult.
body is a walking miracle, and to see people damaging it, it's very painful.
Yeah.
I didn't have that pain before. I didn't notice it before. I didn't realize what a miracle our bodies were. Like that, literally, like she was like a car that didn't work, and then took a part out of one car and put in the other, and off it goes. Like it was amazing.
And you talked to her, right?
Yeah, we're very close. Thank God.
And she's still alive.
Thank God.
Many years, 10 years ago?
Mother of 7.
12 years ago?
It was in the end of 2007.
Oh, so it's 15 years, 16 years ago. Wow, it's been a while.
Yeah.
You look at what you did. You
I
saved a
see.
life.
No, but again, so
But now think about how many people's lives you saved by that
okay. So
inspiration.
in that case,
So humility in this
it
case
would
would have
be-
been negative.
so, but also we don't understand what humility is. We think humility is I'm nothing. So if I told you, Daniel, the humblest man in this city is coming to meet you today. The humblest man in the city. I want you to understand, because in Judaism, humility is the great. Maimonides says is the greatest character trait a person could have. But you'll never see Time Magazine's humblest man of the year.
No, you don't see that.
No, but we don't revere humility. We revere like the Stoics.
Arrogance.
This is
The loud people.
okay. So, but what is humility? So if I said to you, like, okay, like if it's the most important trait to have, let's meet the humblest man in the city. So I invited him to meet you today. How would he knock on the door?
That depends on what your definition of humility is.
But how do you imagine if you think like if I said to anybody out there, the humblest man in your city is coming to visit,
You might.
How would he
You
knock
may
on the door?
think he might knock really quietly just to be
Like,
like,
did you hear something? I think I
Yeah.
heard something. Oh, come in. Where would he sit in the room?
he'd sit in the corner, you know.
Corner in the back, right? No, please come up. I really want everybody here to meet you, like the humblest. I want them to understand the epitome of what humility is. How would he speak?
Quietly.
Could you speak louder? We can't hear you. The Talmud says that Moses was the humblest man who ever lived. Moses, who went on to the top of Mount Sinai, received the commandments. Who was there?
Talk to Pharaoh constantly.
Convinced Pharaoh to let. Moses did not go to Pharaoh and go, could you please let my people go? If it's not too much trouble, no, let my people go. Victory in war, splitting of the sea. Hello. Moses was the humblest man who ever lived.
He had to be.
Humility is not, I'm nothing. Humility is, I'm something, but I know the source. It's all a gift. You're writing the check that God wrote. Like what? Can you imagine somebody saying, I know how to spin a basketball. Like my husband happens to know how to spin a basketball. Like it's like a thing, and it impresses little boys.
Yeah.
Okay, he spins a basketball on his finger. Wow. Look, do you see how I speak English? Really, like, aren't I great?
Yeah.
Look how I can say. Like, I'm going to say another word. Hear it? Yeah. Yes. Umbrella. Like, what are you talking about?
Of course you
You're
can speak.
born into this language.
Yes.
When pride comes in, arrogance lurks. Okay.
Lurks, yeah.
When pride comes in, arrogance lurks. Arrogance it's about me. God gave you talents and skills. Yeah. What are you proud of? You should be proud of my degree. You're proud that you were born into a time of history that women could go on to higher education. I'm proud. Well, I had a boy say, like, I go, what are you proud of? I was trying to teach this idea to him. He was Canadian, so he goes, "Oh, I'm a great hockey player."
Yeah.
Really? You're proud of the fact that you're born in a time of history that you don't have to work in the fields, that your parents have an extraordinary amount of money and time to drive you to this so that you could get into this league, and that God gave you physical prowess, like that health, and that some kids were not born with this, that you could do this. Like, what do you don't take pride, take pleasure. Don't take pride, take pleasure, because when pride comes in, arrogance lurks. Take pleasure. I'm cashing the check that God wrote.
Yeah.
God gave me all of this opportunity, and you're using it for good.
People don't understand that the concept that everyone was given great gifts, and they think that maybe they've done things themselves. I built this company. I made all this money myself. Therefore, I have to go build a giant house or to show how much money. When really, God gave them these gifts. They're just. I like I love this concept that you've taught me about people cashing their checks. I always say to my students, God gave you a $5,000 check, you a $10,000 check, you a $20,000 check. You'd never consider going to a bank with a $5,000 check and say, just give me $4,000, keep the change. Because that's what you're doing when you don't reach your potential in life,
Wow, nice.
right? So we want to, I tell me, I'm teaching beginner students nowadays, Torah in Jerusalem, and I say, my goal here is for me, I'm going to help you to get you to cash your check for its full value. I want you to reach your potential in life.
Nice.
I'm here to guide you and help you along. So when I say, Baruch Hashem, thank God that, I was as successful in my business, I know that I was given a gift because it doesn't go to all my kids of brilliant eyesight. I have great vision in life. I can see things beyond what's now in the future. And that gift has allowed me to become financially successful and when I met you for the first time, like, okay, this woman has unbelievable wisdom. I see the wisdom. And obviously now I'm using the wisdom to teach that I've learned from you and your husband. It's just vision. And God gave me that vision. Not everyone has that vision. And not some people don't see it at all. They don't understand it because I hate to say they have blinders on. They don't, they their filter's not allowing the wisdom to come in. And like for humility, it's not thinking less of yourself. Humility is thinking less about yourself.
Nice.
And I think to myself, God gave me this gift, and I not only do I get pleasure from teaching and from doing this podcast and writing books, I believe that God put me here in order to change people's lives.
So years ago, my mother called me up. She goes, I'm already married with kids. She says, I found your second grade report card. I'm sending it to you. Could she be a Jewish mom? Okay, she
Yes.
still has my
Yeah.
report
Yeah.
cards. I go, why are you sending me my report card, Mom? She goes, when you get it, call me. She sends it to me. I open it up. What does my second grade report card? I'm 7 years old.
Yes.
Lori likes to get up in front of the class and enthrall them with her stories. It's like a review of my last talk in LA.
Yeah.
That's who I was. I have no memory of this.
Yeah.
That's who I was. That's who I am. What I do with it is my free will.
Sure.
I could use it to sell you swampland in Florida.
You could be a great salesperson.
I'd be a great
You'd make a
leader.
lot of money. I'm telling you, you'd make a lot of money being in sales.
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
But I use it, and I choose to use it and channel it. And God gave me opportunity to be able to share wisdom and help people with their lives.
Yes.
So this was a gift. How am I going to use it? You probably were always very charming and personable. But
yeah, it's funny. My sister found a report card, I think from 10th or 11th grade from a business teacher. I don't remember what it said, but I'm like, she totally praised me. She's like, I was her favorite student, like how it was great, like engaging and stuff. And I don't know if I have all the older report cards, but yeah, God gave me a lot of gifts.
So, but what are we going to do with it? So humility is not I'm nothing, I'm something, but I know the source.
Yes.
So I know that this is a gift. And you shouldn't take pride. You should take pleasure that I'm using the gifts that God gave me for good. And now that's a process that you just,
it is a process.
It doesn't like,
it is.
I used to work in advertising.
Yeah.
And I always say I'm still in advertising. I just have a better product now. So I have a lot of, please God, I have a lot of wisdom that I've been learning from amazing people that, from our Jewish heritage that I'm able to share with people, but it's still selling.
Yeah.
But you have a better product.
My wife always mentions to me, because I'm on social media and I write books. And the Rabbi Kanievsky, he died. He was a great rabbi. He died just I think 2 years ago here in Israel. And at his funeral, there was almost 1 million people. Rabbi Kanievsky did not have a yeshiva. Most big rabbis are like the head of a yeshiva, like a big school. He didn't have a school. He had Facebook or Instagram. He had no social media. He wrote a book every 3rd, 6th, 8th, 11th, 14th, 17th, 19th year. Every time there was a leap year in the Jewish calendar, he'd write a book, a sefer. And he had millions of followers. If he was on social media, he'd have millions of followers on the Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah. So when you talk about influencers,
He influenced people. And this guy was so humble. He had so many people waiting in line that to see him, that I hope I'm saying this right, that he'd give people always ask for a blessing from him. He would say bua, which was an acronym for something I don't know right now, because he wanted to save time so he could see so many people in line. Nothing. He had no social media.
So when we should all feel this tremendous responsibility when we're putting ideas out there, those ideas impacting people. When you say, and it's so beautiful, like, oh, I learned from you, I learned from your husband, because there's a very strong Jewish idea to give credit where credit is due. Nothing we're sharing here is new.
No.
This is, sometimes I'll say something and my mother will say, because I didn't grow up observant at all, religious. And out of 4 kids in my family, 3 of us became very observant. So my mother's a therapist and I'll say something from the Talmud and she goes, oh, that's modern psychology. I go, no, that's from the Talmud. No, that's modern psychology. There's nothing new under the sun.
I know.
This is just, what are we doing? We are taking ancient wisdom and we're applying it to our modern world.
By the way, when you say ancient, it doesn't mean old. It's useful today, right? It's not like, oh, it's old news. It's useful today. It's just wisdom that we transpose into modern psychology.
It's ancient wisdom that we are applying to our world today because this is tried and true. We got away from it. The more you get away from wisdom that changed the world for all time and impacted for thousands of years, the more we try it a different way, the more we mess up.
Yeah.
If families were getting stronger, if marriages were getting stronger, if people were living healthier lives, if people were optimistic and happy and there was harmony in the world, then whatever we're doing, we should keep doing. But since it's not like that, something's going wrong. So perhaps let's rewind and try to grab onto things that worked for thousands of years. But again, we have to apply it for our life today.
Do you know that right now there's more therapists per capita than any time in the history of the world? Do you know that right now more people are on antidepressants per capita than any time in the history of the world? Yet we live in, how can I say this is the greatest time ever to be alive with access with the phone, you get every answer in the world right here on the phone. Yet
I used to have to take 2 buses and a subway to get to the main library in Toronto to do an essay and to go through microfiche. And now
I know,
click,
I know,
done. The quote's there.
And I think the problem
You
is
think we would be the happiest ever.
Well,
That we you're hot. Click. Now you have air conditioning. Okay. I was talking to my daughter the other day. I'm living in Israel. She lives in the United States. She's pregnant and she said, while we're talking, she goes, oh, my maternity pillow, like that you could sleep with more and you'd be more comfortable, just arrived. I ordered it 2 hours ago.
I know, it's crazy.
2 hours ago.
Came by drone. No, it's crazy.
Oh, okay. So you think we'd be the happiest. So why are we miserable? We have everything that our grandparents, our great-grandparents could only dream of. So why, when, the founding director of something called Momentum, and so we bring Jewish mothers from all over the world to Israel for an 8-day transformational experience. They go back for a 1-year follow-up. And we're really trying to inspire them in the Jewish values that we're talking about, these values.
Which are values for the world, by the way.
People would say universal values, but who brought this to the world? The concept of monotheism, the concept of that God created us for our pleasure, and that the idea of peace and harmony and when I first started dabbling in my own Judaism, because I wasn't raised with this knowledge or tradition. So I remember I'm I'm a wide-eyed Canadian. And the first time I came to the United States and I went to Philadelphia and I stood in line and I waited to see the Liberty Bell. What's written around the Liberty Bell is from the book of Leviticus about let freedom ring throughout the world. It's the Jubilee year about letting the slaves go free. If you go to the United Nations, it says, right, it's from the book of Isaiah.
Yeah.
Turn your swords into plowshares.
Plowshares.
All right. It's about peace. It's like we shouldn't be fighting. We should be building. So this is from the book of Isaiah. This is like what? This is all from In God we trust. Okay. This is the Jews brought it to the world because it's not a Jewish secret. It's to change the world. When God says when we're told that we're a chosen people, it's not because we're better. We're chosen for a responsibility to be a light unto the nations, to model this and teach it to the world. Where were we?
We were talking about humility. We're talking about the 3 times that you're allowed to lie.
I know, but what was the point of the story? Why was I talking about this?
No, sometimes you just go off, and we like it.
Okay.
We love it. We love it. I mean, I remember I used to be in class when I started taking class with you. High holidays, whatever, you give a class for like 45 minutes, and like this is how you know you're a great speaker when you finish the class. I'm like, oh, I need another hour. Like you want. Most people are like, oh, thank God he's done. Like you're falling asleep with your class.
Wanting more.
Leave them wanting more, and I learned a lot from you. So the 3 times you are allowed to lie, we talked about peace. We talked about for humility to lower your accomplishments.
Oh, now I remember why I said all this. Okay. So the whole idea of knowing that this is all a gift from God.
Yeah.
It's not a negative thing. It doesn't mean I'm less. It means that God, it's like I'm more. Like, wow, like God gave me all this opportunity. And but you should not be showy about your things. Like there's an idea that even if you can afford a huge house or you afford a flashy car, you should fly under the radar. Because when God gives us opportunity and gifts and we cash that check and we use them, it should never be to cause jealousy.
Do you know there was a 16th century Kabbalist, his name's Kli Yakar, that's his acronym. He said in the 1600s that he was talking about Jews, but he said people in general should not show their wealth. He said it creates jealousy, it creates envy, and that it's not positive for the world. That when you have, and I gotta tell you today, it's ridiculous. I know I was living in Bethesda, Maryland, Rockville area, and everyone builds these giant houses, and thank God, I had a nice house and everything, but I used every square inch of my house, as you know, for hosting guests and for dinners and for events, and you spoke at my house.
You use everything that God gave you for good.
Yes. And then, people build these houses that are, upwards of 15, 16,000 square feet, which is like.
And how many people live in that house?
Like 4, like and a dog, right? And they're not using it for good. And it's just like, what do they do?
They're using it there. Have a beautiful home.
They should have pleasure,
they
but
don't always necessarily open it up for public events or for charitable events.
Yeah. What's the reason why you have this stuff? God gave you these things as a gift.
Somebody who lives in a mega house like that.
Yeah.
She goes, we don't see each other. He's off in that wing. She's off in that wing. She goes, we don't even see each other. When you're in a small space, like you hang out together.
My dad built our house in 1965. It was a big house. Because he was an attorney, did well. He put intercom system. 1965, he built it. They moved in. I wasn't born yet. I was born that year. And actually, the reason I was born, I think because my grandmother died and she was supposed to live with us. And then because she died, they had me instead. So I'm like the replacement. I don't think I was planned.
Wow, it's so interesting.
Yeah, so they put intercoms. They put intercoms in every single room because the house was so big. Yeah. They had like call people over the door. It was really, it was funny, really funny.
So I'm sure people today, like they take their phones and they call each other. They message.
I don't think. Right.
Today, but the idea of like when you have a big house. So what's the idea of even if you can afford it, you shouldn't live in it. And I know somebody who said like he actually built a big house, but he built very few bedrooms because he wanted his kids to share rooms.
Yes,
because I shared a room with my brother growing up, and it was good for me.
Yeah.
It's like that you learn to live together and you learn to compromise and you learn to he wanted his kids. Not everybody shouldn't have their own room. So the idea is like God gave you beautiful things and beautiful opportunity, but it should never be for envy and it should never be for jealousy.
The 3 times you're allowed to lie, we talked about peace, we talked about humility, and now we're talking about privacy. This is when something is none of their business.
So your life is not an open book. Just because somebody asks you oh, I heard you're moving. I heard you're pregnant. I heard you got a $5,672 raise. You can say, no, I didn't. Why? Because it's none of their business. But Daniel, if the IRS asks you, did you get a $5,672 raise? That is their business.
Yeah. So this happens a lot. I know we're very blessed to have 5 children. And, after my 3rd or 4th child, I would tell some friends in my business, oh yeah, we're having another baby, and they would say to me, "So are you done?" And I'm like, "You'll be the first to know." What am I supposed to say to that? I always love that. What am I supposed to say to that?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I'm done, I guess, because you don't want me having more babies. Because I really think that people do that because they're uncomfortable when other people have a lot of children.
Yeah.
It makes them uncomfortable because really having a lot of children means responsibility, and people don't like that word.
So again, but if people, I get that also. Like
Yeah.
this, I have 5 kids also, and people like sometimes like what the same marriage, and they go like, "Oh, you're going to have any more?" I go, "Well, you'll be the first to know."
Yeah, I'll let
It's
you
like,
know
we'll
when
just meet you at a cocktail party.
So
But when somebody like if people you know and they ask you questions about your life,
it's funny here in
like
Israel.
thing, are you like
How much your house cost?
Yeah. Oh, it's very funny because Israelis and North Americans look at money in a very different way.
Mhm.
For an Israeli, if like, oh, nice chair, what'd you pay?
Yeah.
That's not considered to be an indiscreet question, or what you make.
Yeah.
But in America, you would never do such a thing.
No, it's considered actually more personal how much money you make than your body in America. Like, you give that away, but
You don't want to think about your relationship,
Yeah.
but like money is more. You'll talk about your relationship in a much broader way than you would your bank account.
Yes. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Living in Clarity podcast. I'm Coach Ratner. This is Lori Plotnick, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching the Living in Clarity podcast. If you enjoyed our episode, please like, comment, or subscribe. We'll see you next time.